get to step into what is now week 6 and kind of the finale for us in our Nehemiah series. And we're going to land in chapter 6 today. There are 13 chapters in the book of Nehemiah, so I encourage you to read through chapters 7 through 13 if you're interested in, as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story. But yes, only the older generation got that joke. That's all right. And you didn't laugh. So I need you to help me when I throw one that no one else is going to know. But there is more to the story. But really for us, God has had us on this journey of seeing the first completion of the rebuilding of the wall. The walls of Jerusalem were torn down and had originally been destroyed by the Babylonians. And there had been opportunities, even under this Persian Empire, for the walls to be rebuilt, but it hadn't happened. They had succeeded in rebuilding the temple, which was amazing, 516 BC, but they hadn't ever completed rebuilding the walls of the city. And that left the people of the city, the culture, the nature and character of God, challenged by the compromise that came in because of the vulnerability. When the walls are down, people live in vulnerability and deception. And the enemies of Jerusalem literally lived right outside the walls of the city and profited from the brokenness. That's important to know and note, because from the beginning, when Nehemiah heard of the walls being down and with conviction and letters from the king Artaxerxes of the Persian Empire went back to rebuild those walls, from that beginning he faced opposition right from the get-go. In the form of Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem, and certainly the peoples that they led. They were governors in that area themselves over people groups that were also under the rule of the Persian Empire. And so when Nehemiah came back with letters from Artaxerxes, the king, with permission to rebuild those walls, they opposed that. And they tried all sorts of different plots and plans. They first just tried to make fun of them and talk them into believing that what they were believing for could never happen. And then they came against them with even plots to physically challenge them or destroy them, though that would have been a bad move because the Persian king would have defended them. But they kind of worked through a lot of different plans. And the reason the enemy works so many different plans is because if we trust in God, none of his plans are going to succeed. So he got to have multiple strategies till he can catch us off guard. But Nehemiah, man, he was on point, Chris, with God, and he just continued to, every plan was thwarted because of his attentiveness to Holy Spirit, right? And so we land up here in chapter 6 of the book of Nehemiah, and the work is almost complete. They've essentially closed off all the gaps. They've rebuilt the wall. All that's really left to do is put the doors in the gates. So the gates then have to be put up. And at that point, the enemies knew that there was really nothing that they could do, and they hoped at this point just to maybe take out Nehemiah before this final piece was in place. Maybe even that would cause the walls then to be left vulnerable and broken down again. And so we pick the story up in verse 1 of Nehemiah chapter 6. Now when Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem the Arab and the rest of our enemies heard that I had built the wall and that there was no breach left in it, although up to that time I had not set the doors and the gates. So when they heard that, Sanballat and Geshem sent to me saying, "Come and let us meet together at Hakethrim in the plain of Ono." So they kind of have shifted a little here. So they've never had a direct communication, as far as we can see, Miss Jackie, with Nehemiah before. They've certainly plotted and planned, and Nehemiah records that for us, their plots and plans, and talks about how they were thwarted by God. Nehemiah never before spoke directly back to Sanballat or Tobiah that we can see. We don't see that in this narrative. But at this point, they kind of kick into diplomatic mode, and they decide, okay, well, let's reach out to him as governors, and he's the governor of Judah, so let's just kind of try to talk him off the wall. Let's talk him out of what God's planned for him. But Nehemiah was wise to their plot and says this, "But they intended to do me harm." I think it's important to know that every evil intention of the enemy is only meant to do us harm. Right? Anything that stands against God's word or will is meant to do us harm. It's meant to derail the destiny of God. There's no middle ground in this. And so he says, "I sent messengers to them saying," it's the first time he's communicated directly back with them that we can see, "and I said, I'm doing a great work and I cannot come down." Let me give you a little advice. When there's this dissenting voice in your heart or head, or it even comes from without, and you're hearing someone try to talk you out of what God's word says, right? Or what God wills for you, wise counsel and instruction. When someone or something is trying to talk you out of that, I would suggest that you say this to them: God's doing something here, and I'm not coming down. In fact, he goes on to say, "Why should I stop while I leave it and come. Why should the work stop while I leave it and come down to you? Why would I do that? I mean, that's a rhetorical question, or in other words, I'm not going to come down, right? And there's that place to just push back on the enemy's efforts to distract us from what God wants for us. And they sent to me 4 times in this way, and I answered them the same way every time. How many of you know sometimes that brokenness that's inside of us, or that opportunity that's not God for us, just kind of keeps coming? You know what I'm saying? Like the temptation doesn't go away on the first refusal. And so Nehemiah had to do it 4 times. They just kept coming. Oh, come on, it's not, just come talk to us. Let's have just a conversation or a discussion. And sometimes that discussion isn't even necessarily bad, Ray. We know this. There was a book written to this effect, that the good, in fact, is the enemy of the great. And sometimes what may be okay for someone else isn't okay for me, or isn't okay for you. Choosing God over good is what leads us to his purposes and plans. And Nehemiah, there was nothing to talk about. Come on, you know what I'm talking about. There's some things in your life right now. There's some opportunities to decide against what God's got for you, or there's some opportunities to compromise, or there's some choices or decisions that are there for you to make, and you could make them. But you know it's not God. And if you're honest, you know there's nothing to talk about. I mean, sometimes we say, well, I'm going to pray about it. Pray about what? There's nothing to pray about. God said this, do that. Do that. I don't need to talk to you. You haven't wanted this wall to be rebuilt. You haven't wanted me to stand in the grace that's there for me. You haven't wanted me to be healed or whole since this conversation began. I'm not talking to you. You have no voice. You have no part in this. I'll say this to you. Everyone who's chased after the heart of God and any vision that God ever gave has had to deal with deception and distraction. That's a part of it. That's certainly been a part of this journey for the last 5 years. And often the dissenting voice is mine, right? I mean, sometimes I'm the one that I have to tell to shut up a little bit. But I'm not the only one. There have been lots of other voices too, and they're not always wrong. They're just not right. Do you understand? They may not be wrong. Maybe they're saying something that's true, but it's not relevant. It's not pertinent. Not when you put grace into the equation. The Holy Spirit's never the accuser of the brethren. That's not how he works. He directs and redirects, that's for sure. We need people in our lives who will love us enough to tell us the truth. That's not what we're talking about right now, and you know the difference. I don't even need to take my time today to explain it. We all need covering and counsel. That's not what this was. This is Sanballat and Tobiah. Who are the Sanballat and Tobiahs in your life? Give them no voice. The strategy was simple: distract Nehemiah away from his calling and kill it. That's what they were going for. Praise God for Holy Spirit, because Nehemiah knew it. He knew that was their plan. So what did Nehemiah do? He stayed with his people and he stayed with his purpose. It wasn't rocket science. He just said, I'm not coming down to have this conversation with you. You have no voice. CJ and I both say this a lot, but listen, only Jesus died for the right to talk to us about who we are. He stayed with his people. He did have people too. That's important to know. Right? T-Rev, he had people. We see when Nehemiah first left the Susa, that even when Artaxerxes sent him out, there were people. He had people, right, that went with him. And those invariably were people that he knew. I believe that he handpicked the soldiers that went with him. He had a position of power in Persia. And then when he got there, he didn't tell everyone when he went. Remember, I read from chapter 2, when he went and he viewed the ruins and he considered the brokenness and how to work on rebuilding the wall. He had people. I'll tell you, for me here at 828 Church, we, as in Karen and I, did not launch this church. But we, with God and a whole lot of other amazing people, were graced to launch this church. And I'll say to you, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that in all of my church history, I've worked with a lot of amazing teams. And not necessarily so much by way of comparison, but I've never worked with a team I love more and love working with more than this one. We have too much fun. We do. I'd rather be a little bit underpaid and work with this crew right here. I mean, we have the lead team, the staff team, the serve team, the people that came through even today, the people that 5 years ago were unloading 2 24-foot trailers, the guys, Jake, I was thinking about you at the theater that one day it was raining so hard and you and Dylan were loading that trailer outside that side door. These are people I love and love to work with, and it is a blessing, and everybody got to have some people. You need family to be about the Father's business with. Plug in and let's do something. It's a blessing. I just love these guys. I tell you, too, my wife, Karen, she often says that the things that God's called us to, I hear it. She'll say, I submit to Ron. He's the leader of our family, and I know that there's some truth in that, but the truth is we're partners. God called it to be that way, too. And she'll say, I went kicking and screaming, and I just want you to know that that's not true. She might have fought with God a little bit, but she never fought with me. Not about what God called us to. She is one of the most acquiescent God followers that I know. And I say that because for me, sometimes I don't think it through well enough to even consider the objections I might have. And that's not how she's built. She thinks about all the issues, all the challenges, all the problems, and then she does it anyway. Come on. Yeah. Nehemiah had people, and he stayed with his people. Listen, all of us came from somewhere. Listen, we've had people that came that were part of our church plant that God then reallocated to other churches locally or even moved to other states, and we're okay with that. We say here at 828 Church, we'll love you coming and going because God's in charge of the battle board, and we're not competing, right? We're cooperating with God in the kingdom and the churches in our city. So thank you for believing that this is where God sent you. We need you, and we're glad to have you, and we've had to hear that from some other people that God put other places, but find you somewhere, plug in, right? And I with bias believe and hope that that's here because you're here, but find somewhere to plug in and be a part. Nehemiah had people, and he stayed focused on his purpose. In fact, the message is titled Focused on Faithfulness because the enemy's going to come against you. And you don't just, it's not even just being focused, and focused certainly on God, but just focusing on the need to be faithful. Like, God, I'm going to be faithful to follow you. I'm going to be faithful to look for you. I'm going to be faithful to lean into you. Just focus on being faithful, and then God will take care of the result. You understand what I'm saying? Like, God, here's the part I know I can be in charge of. I can be in charge of Naomi consistently giving my heart to you and deciding I'm going to follow you. I'm going to persist with you. I don't know how it's all going to work out. I'm not trying to decide that. I'm deciding to follow you. And that was Nehemiah. Even Jesus was challenged. Remember the day that he did a healing on the Sabbath and the Pharisees, the religious leaders, came and accused him? You can't do work on the Sabbath. And he said, look, I just do what I see the Father doing. Take it up with him. And that's where we got to land on this. And that means being close to the Father. Sanballat feigned coming in good faith for a discussion as a diplomat, but that was never his intent. The enemy, he knows diplomacy when he thinks it'll benefit him. You understand? Like sometimes he'll be all diplomatic. And in fact, I'll say this to you. The enemy loves to disguise drama as diplomacy. If he can't destroy you, he'll just try to dramatize you. Right? We joke about that. Traumatized. Someone's traumatized. Sometimes we look in the mirror, and if we're real, our faces look dramatized. His plan isn't always mega destruction. It's often just mega distraction or mega drama. How are you doing? Where's your focus? Is it on him and the things he's called you to be? God help us to stay that course. In the world we live in, it's just so easy to get caught up in so many conversations and discussions and thought processes. Where do you spend your energy? I want to spend my energy. I want to spend my voice on God and the things that matter to God. Choose conversations and effort that are most important and most impactful. And again, we live in a world where the distractions are just incredible. And I'm not saying that some of the peripheral conversations don't have a place. If you want to find out what I believe or believe about a lot of the issues that are happening in our world today, then we can have a cup of coffee and we can talk about that. But I'll tell you honestly that pretty quickly, I'm pretty sure the conversation is going to shift to Jesus. Because I love talking about Jesus. And I think when we give our hearts to him, he'll guide and direct us in the rest of this. Jesus himself said, don't throw your pearls to pigs. They'll trample the pearls, then turn and attack you. Of course, we don't have to look to the world for drama. The church isn't immune to drama either. The first conversation Karen and I had about planting a church, and it was way before Wilmington was a place we even knew about. We were walking around our neighborhood, and we were a part of a church at that time, a church that we loved and that loved us, but had this sense that God was doing something, and we were supposed to go be entrepreneurial with a big vision for the things that make 828 Church, that we had a piece of the wall that was specific to us, and we needed to go focus on that, and that God had other people that would feel that way too. And so I said to her as we were walking around the neighborhood, I said, I really feel like we need to launch a church. plant a church. And she said, and I quote, are you serious? And that was the inflection. Are you serious? And I said, I think so. And then the next thing she said, and this is a true story, she said, okay, but I don't want to babysit Christians. That's Mama Karen. She's back there in kids right now. She don't mind babysitting kids. She don't want them to babysit Christians. I want us to do something that matters. And if people don't want to be a part of that, they can go to some other church. So I was like, okay. I'm good with that. I'm not sure how much we'll get to be in charge of that, but I'm good with that. Listen, I'm not naive, and neither is she. You can't avoid drama, but you don't have to fuel it. You hear what I'm saying? Like, the drama is a part of dealing with broken people. Sometimes we are the source of our own drama. I get that. But we don't have to fuel the drama. We live in a world that's just so fueled by drama and division. And God is the one that brings us together. Listen, let's work hard in our own lives, in our own homes, in our own relationships, and certainly in this church to make it about what it is about, right? About God and His purposes and plans being carried forth. And I believe, just so you don't misinterpret what I'm saying, we need people who live godly in every sphere. In our education system, right? In government, we need godly people being godly. But even then, I don't think we're meant to fuel the drama or push people away, but rather bring people in and introduce them to Jesus. Why else are we here? I'm okay. You try being a pastor in 2020, man. Use your social media to love people, would you? That's all, man. And there's a story I share sometimes from a Max Lucado book. He talks about the drama inside the church. He said, when he was a kid, his dad and a couple other dads took some of his friends, and they went fishing. So they went to this cabin up in the mountains somewhere, and they were going to fish. And the first night they were there, it rained. It was cold and rainy. So they didn't fish, but it was cool. The place had a fireplace. It wasn't a campfire, but they had a fireplace. They still made s'mores, and they had some fun. They played some board games. They stayed up late. The next day, Christina, it was still rainy and cold, so they didn't go fishing. They still had plenty of food and fun, but by mid-afternoon, they're starting to get on each other's nerves just a little bit. And then the next morning, they were supposed to be there like for most of the week, but the next morning, it was still cold and rainy and predicted to continue to be that way, and they packed up and went home. Because when fishermen don't fish, they fight. Right? So let's fish. Right? Come on, church, are you with me? Let's fish. If we're fishing, it's never going to be about the color of the carpet or the walls. Right? It's never going to be about. Somebody has to decide that. Thank God for Michelle and her amazing crew. The foyer looks amazing. It's so beautiful. I had nothing to do with that. I just said, spend some money and make it awesome. And I love it. And I don't want to discuss it. Let the people with the prophetic gift be the decorators. They're really good at it. And let's focus on the things that we are called to do too. Here's the reality. It takes less effort but more energy to participate in the drama than to actually make a difference. And that's important. I put that on the screen for you. It's true. It takes less effort, but it actually takes more energy to participate in the drama. You know it's right? Because drama wear you out. Now, making a difference is harder, but it actually energizes you because grace kicks in. And then you can go to sleep when your head hits a pillow. Decrease your face time and increase your face time and watch God work. Nehemiah's response, and Sanballat literally came against him with an accusation. When his frontal attack didn't work, Nehemiah 6:5-7 tell us that the fifth time they came against him, that Sanballat literally sent an open letter. And in this case, he actually said to Nehemiah, look, I've heard that you've set up prophets to declare that there's a new king in Judah and you're going to be him, and you wait till King Artaxerxes hears about that. That's a complete fabrication. He's just trying to lie against Nehemiah in an open letter so everybody could see and hear, and to intimidate Nehemiah. And it was a complete false accusation. The thing about that, though, that Sanballat didn't get is that Nehemiah knew the king knew Nehemiah. And I'll say again, I don't need people to tell me I'm imperfect. I already know that. All right, and I got some people in my life who love me, who tell me the truth, and I appreciate that too. That's needed and necessary. I know the king knows me. He knows my foibles and my flaws, and he loves me anyway. And the same is true for you, right? Drama-driven accusation was Sanballat's new strategy, but here's how Nehemiah dealt with that. Nehemiah chapter 6, verse 8 and 9. Then I sent him saying, no such things have have been done. For you are inventing them out of your own mind. For they all wanted to frighten us, thinking their hands will drop from the work and it will not be done. That was the plan. You ever see that happen in your own life? Like the drama just kind of, the distraction. And you're just like, you know what, you're not, I said it a minute ago, I'll say it again. You're not wrong, you're just not right. Their hands will drop from the work. And then he prayed, but now, oh God, strengthen my hands, Nehemiah said. When the outside attack failed, Sanballat went one step further and tried to create an inside job. So he actually went and talked to some people that were from Jerusalem, that were from Judah. And he said, hey, why don't you guys try to we can't get him to step off and talk to us, but he'll come and talk to you. And when he does, try to get him to compromise. And for me, I can't think of that so much in the human context. I don't have people that are close enough to me that I would go see that are trying to talk me into compromise. They're actually quite the opposite of that. But I do know that sometimes the internal voices, the flesh that I have, the fear, the insecurity, right? The comparison that sometimes comes in because of those two, the impatience, the impertinence, the pettiness that sometimes is a part of our brokenness, that voice sometimes still gets my ear and will cause me to think, well, this is what God's called you to, and he's called you to do this godly thing, this godly way, but if you leave off the godly way and you shortcut it, you'll get to God's will more quickly, right? You ever feel that way? Or like I kind of have a right to an exception here to what God's wisdom says because I've dealt with this or I've gone through that. I can even apply that to church because here at 828 Church, we want the church to grow. But our bigger heart is aggressive reach. We've said that from the beginning. We consider ourselves an aggressive reach church. We want people to have a place to call home. We believe that the lost should be found and the found should be free. And that's what we're working on. And some of those strategies are not the best fastest path to just radical church growth, candidly. Our big investment over the ocean, I mean, that cost us time and money, and sometimes locally, maybe even feels like it costs us a little momentum, but not when you consider the root and the fruit that God's looking for. We got to stay the course with what God called us to, and I don't want to just do that for 5 years. I want to do that for 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Stay the course and be who God called us to be. If the enemy can't get us to quit, he'll just try to get us to compromise. And it's often the internal voice. And God's telling you to be patient in that relationship or wait for me to bring the right person into your life. It's easy to become impatient and feel like you're owed an exception to applying God's wisdom. Are you listening right now? This applies to our lives. In fact, they said to Nehemiah, you should just come and be with us, these fellow Jews. They said, why don't you just come and go into the temple, because they really are looking to kill you. So come into the temple and we'll hide you there and you'll be safe. And then essentially the work can be complete and your life won't be in danger. The problem with that was that God's word, Mosaic law, clearly stipulated that someone who wasn't a priest, a Levite, wasn't allowed to go into the temple. It was forbidden. Nehemiah could have said, well, I'm the governor. King Saul did that. He said, well, there's no one here to make sacrifice. I'll do it myself. It cost him. In fact, I'll say this. Diplomacy becomes demonic when the deal being struck requires compromising God's word or will. It's not just drama anymore. It's demonic. When the voice is calling you to compromise on God's word and will, you need to step back and silence that voice. God's plans are only carried out God's way. I just need us to hear that. And I need us to believe that as a church too. God's will is only carried out God's way. He doesn't just lay out a plan and then say, good luck, go for it. He leads us each step of the way. What did he say to his first disciples? You come follow me. That's what he said. I mean, he said, come follow me and I'll make you fishers of men. But I know enough of English to know that there's an understood subject in that sentence, and the sentence is you. You come follow me. Apply God's wisdom and God's word. God's will is only accomplished God's way. We don't do it any differently. I think of the story of David Years before this story takes place, in fact, in 1 Samuel, we see a situation where the Ark of the Covenant, which held the manifest presence of God in the Old Testament, had been taken by the Philistines, and they had put it in the temple of Dagon, and that didn't go well. You know, we like to say around here that God is funny, but he's not a joke, right? And this story is hilarious because they put the Ark of the Covenant in this temple with one of their own Philistine gods named Dagon, and they came back the next morning, and the god had tumbled over, and nobody touched it. Put it back up. They came in, or I think that was in the evening, and then the next one they put it back up, and then they came in the next morning, and the god had fallen over, and it had essentially been beheaded and lost its arms. And then on top of that, people started to become sick with tumors and a variety of different diseases, and the Philistines wised up and said, "We are not supposed to have this." And they put it on an ox cart with a heifer, the Bible says, and they sent it back. Now, that's in 1 Samuel. Then in 2 Samuel, there was a time when David and the armies of Israel had recaptured the Ark of the Covenant. Different story completely, but they had somehow adopted the deception of the Philistines because the Ark of the Covenant was meant to only be carried on Asherah poles by the priests. But rather than follow God's will, they put it on an ox cart. They learned something from their broken culture that wasn't meant to apply to God's culture. And I can see their reasoning. You know, we got to send the Levites over there. It's going to be hard. It's heavy. It's a long walk. Come on, there's a shortcut. Put it on an ox cart. It goes faster. Y'all listening? Well, let's choose to live into the truth of God by being obedient to God and God's voice and see what God works out. Jesus' patience in the house of the Lord today for us as individuals and as a church. Let's resolve in our hearts that no one's going to talk us off the wall. We're going to stay persistent in what God wills. Sometimes I really feel like the Lord speaks to me. And I am a church metrics. I'm a church visionary and strategist. But I often hear God say, no ox carts. You got to pray your way to that breakthrough. You got to pray your way to that impact. You got to do the right thing the right way for the right reason. And I'll take care of the result. Making exceptions to godly wisdom is never wise. And that applies to our lives right now. Some of us right now know there's some adjustments we need to make because we've compromised on God's wisdom. He still loves us. Our Father's good with us. This is His house. He can work here. Here's Nehemiah's response to them. He said, should such a man as I run away? First of all, I'm not going to operate in fear. I'm not going to go hide in the temple. And then he said, and what man such as I could go into the temple and live? I will not go in. Or in other words, I will not compromise. Or in other words, shut up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes we need to hush the internal voices. We also need to throw punch the devil and make sure he has no voice or ability to speak. Just give him a little quick throat punch. The best way to do that is in worship. When you start feeling that temptation to compromise or distraction or deception or drama, then just worship your way to remembering who God is and what He wants and wills and how He wants to get it done. Worship your way to throat punching the devil, silencing the internal voices, and hear what God has to say. And watch God rebuild the wall. And then verse 15 of Nehemiah chapter 6, the worship team is going to join us. The wall was finished on the 25th day of the month of Elul in 52 days. That is record-breaking fast. And when all our enemies heard of it, all the nations around us were afraid and fell greatly in their own esteem. Maybe they thought that they were bigger and badder than God, but they got a quick heads up. 52 days, that wall had been sitting there broken for years, for decades, for generations, and then someone stood up and said, hey, this is not supposed to be this way. And a group of people rallied around that vision and said, we will surely rebuild it. And 52 days later, God had worked a miracle. And He didn't do it by sending an army of angels. He used people with hearts and hands, and they did the work. They focused on faithfulness, and they followed through. And the dreamer in me is released when I read that. The wall was finished. For why did they fall greatly in their own esteem? Because they perceived that this work had been accomplished with the help of our God. When it's God's work that gets done, God will get the glory. And I'll say what I said on day one, GG, it's all Jesus. Everything good that's ever happened here or anywhere else in this world, it's all Jesus. It's Jesus. Undeniably God. The lives that have been changed in the last 5 years, including mine, the breakthroughs, the freedoms, the salvations, the baptisms, the redemption of brokenness that we've experienced together. There's been horrific brokenness, and yet we've seen God heal it and redeem it. It's been all Jesus. And it will always be God. In fact, David wrote in the Psalm 127, unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. So let me recap. This is the Father's house. This is the Father's work, and this is the Father's house. This used to be an Aaron's Rena Center. It's not anymore. Because it's never been about the building. It's always been about the God that flooded this place with His presence. And His presence is here. And you can meet with God under a mango tree in the bush in western Zambia. God will show up and show off. It is the Father's house. And this, for us as a family on Sunday mornings, this is the Father's house. Bring your brokenness. Bring your shame. Just don't leave with it. This is the Father's house. This is where our hurt and our history become a recipe for redemption, in this house. Right here. In fact, that's a takeaway for us. Let's let that be true. In this house, the Father's house, prodigals come home, strongholds are broken, healing happens, lives are restored. We're about to sing a lyric in a song, Lisa, that says, check your shame at the door. It's not welcome anymore. Because this, and we're going to do work. God will do work in here, and we'll do work out there. We do a little work here too. People do meet Jesus here consistently. A lot of folk come to know Jesus in this place. Sunday is a day when we do everything we can to make Jesus known. Real and obvious. In this space, in that kid's space, and it is an honor. And then we're going to go out there, and we're going to come back next Sunday, and we might be a little row weary. Because it can be a little tough out there. But that's all right, because we're going to come to the Father's house. And you don't have to wait till Sunday. I know that too. But there's something about coming together with God's people. That's why the apostle said, don't forsake assembling together. Because we really are, first series, better. It's true. Your family has already added so much value to this family. You guys are a joy to have here. Can't wait to meet baby boy. We're going to dedicate him to Jesus and watch Jesus work. How do we catch such a break to have the Coveys come to our crew for this season? Thank you, Jesus. Tabitha. Together. With God. Pick up some passionate faith and believe with the rest of us that the best is yet to come, not just for you, but for this church. Stand, would you? Happy birthday. And yay, Jesus.